September 22nd, 2011. We witnessed the start of a great series. A Seamus started with Dark Souls 1. Buggy, unfinished, poorly optimised, ugly, difficult instead of challenging, and boring. It was an emotional toll to get through. I can only describe it as a drag to play, with great moments peppered throughout a consistently awful game. Seath the Dragon, Lost Isolith, Ceaseless Discharge, the invisible walkway shit before Seath the Dragon, Bed of Chaos, Centipede Demon, Anolondo, Blight Town. Yeah, Anolondo was also bad. On the 11th of March 2014, Dark Souls 2 was released. A great game with some obvious flaws that really defines what you take home from the whole experience, positive or negative, that were later help Dark Souls 3 become the game it's comfortable being. Someone should have told us on YouTube that, because they didn't get the memo. MauLer, a strange YouTuber indeed. MauLer created a nearly 10-hour series critiquing a second YouTuber, Hbomberguy, in his video on Dark Souls 2, and thereby critiquing Dark Souls 2 with it. I am not joking, he spent almost 10 hours attacking a YouTuber he apparently likes. This is some galaxy brain level nonsense. However, his last video in the series, In Defense of Dark Souls 2 School of the First Sin, contains only a minuscule of Hbomberguy hatred. Hbomberguy hatred. It contains actual, genuine critique of a video game. And as a solid defender of video games, and specifically Dark Souls 2, I thought I'd do my best to defend a game that I love with all my heart. Something I'm sure MauLer has never heard of. In this video, we'll be defending Dark Souls 2. Hbomberguy, you're on your own, sorry mate. And hopefully we will be cementing MauLer as a garbage critic that you shouldn't waste hours of your life on. Dark Souls 2 isn't that good. It's just better than Dark Souls 1 by a long shot. What's so wrong about that, huh? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Shut up. Okay, before we start, I need to get this out of the way. All counter-arguments I use with my run, the Gobby. The Gobby attempts to get as close to a usual first-timers Dark Souls 2 run, with a few caveats. No changes to ADP, minimal shield, and the Ultra Greatsword. Okay, understood? Let's go. In defense of MauLer, get it? Get it? He spends most of the intro defending Dark Souls 2, with no sarcasm at all. Why does it sound like I'm not being sincere? Oh right, this whole intro is a lead into a well poisoning. A sort of cleaning of the well before poisoning it? I guess this is anti-hypocrisy measures? I don't know. What is the point of this? I must add that
Diverse and rewarding systems serve as the meat, but the game is set as the content within a vehicle of woe and despair.
It's like the most torture sentence I've ever heard in my life. I've got systems made out of meat, and my game is in a vehicle made out of woe and despair. But really, I don't honestly believe you enjoy this game at all. MauLer says that you do not need to reference anything but the game in question to make a defense for it. Well, you don't need to, but it's way more interesting and definitely garners more views, and it's also quite more concise. If it's a series, for instance, Dark Souls 2, then referencing the other parts of the series might actually help a little bit. Or maybe it's a political game, and the outside influences from that will help as well. What I'm saying is that games don't exist in a vacuum. Many objections to the statement just makes it plain wrong. MauLer then goes on to say, I'm not directing that message at anyone in particular, but I'm sure you understand, Harris.
By the way, it's actually pretty easy.
I mean, firstly, it's pretty fucking rude, petty, disrespectful. Just a generally shitty thing to say to someone you're apparently a fan of. He's not gonna watch the video, man. From what I can tell, only 30% of the people that start the series end it. It's also pretty funny that the Scholar video got way more views considering, it's not an 8-hour podcast of some guy hate jerking it. It's actually kind of concise. MauLer, I'm also a fan of your work. It gives me a lot of humour. And I respect you as well. The same way you give respect to other people, which is apparently smug, pathetic contempt. Because I can do that too. Right, where was I?
Like the game as much as you want, but when I'm discussing measurable functionality and the effectiveness of a project and its aspects, your fifis aren't relevant.
I feel like MauLer should explain his arguments better. Well, I'm sure you've heard of point, evidence, and explain, right? You can measure functionality, sure. I mean, do you mean, like, business statistics? MauLer means bugs, in this regard. I mean, sure, bugs existing is an objective reality of a video game. How detrimental they are to the player, or how the player feels about them, that's all subjective. You can make a 40-hour video showing every clip of every bug in Dark Souls 2. It doesn't mean anything. How about a minor bugs to a video game? It all depends. The effectiveness of a project is also subjective as well. This is something you can't do objectively without knowing the intentions of the designer, but there's also multiple designers as well, so it's not objective, you can't. I must reiterate that MauLers doesn't mean statistics, and you can't use anything with feelings, those aren't relevant. Basically what I'm trying to say is that personal enjoyment and experience is way more important than the quantity of bugs. It shouldn't be understated that MauLers' intention is to prove that Dark Souls 2 has not just more bugs than any Souls game, but the majority of content he highlights is bugged. This is untrue, and we'll get to that. Video games are way more complex, and treating it like business software is a reductionist view that harms the medium. Art isn't objective. Are you ready, folks? Here we go. MauLers' first complaint is the movement. See, back in the archaic times with Dark Souls 1, all 360 degrees of movement was tied to your left analog stick. However, in Dark Souls 2, the left analog stick has 16 directions of movement. Not 8, as MauLers says constantly. However, the right analog stick allows for precise movement, using the camera. This also helps keyboard and mouse layouts, as the WASD allows for 8 directions of movement. You get what I mean? Here, let me show you. Come on. Hey everybody, it's me, your favourite, and here's Gobby. Say hello, Gobby. Yeah, okay, so anyway, I'm going to show you two things in this clip. Uno. There's no 8 directions, there's 16-ish. 2, you can do 360 degrees of movement if you just think for more than 5 seconds. So here we go, here's the first bit. And walk forwards. 2, 1, 2, hang on, you can see here, so there's 1 there, 1 about there, and 1 there. Then it goes east about here. Let's do again. North. 1, 2, 3. So you can see about 2 between north and east. There's about 1 right there, about 1 there. It's hard to show you very precisely, but you can see that it's more than it's not 8. Because if it's 8, there would just be one direction. It'd be just this one. But you can see there's like a small one right there, like that right there. So anyway, that's 16. But I'm going to show you also how to do 360 degrees, and that's pretty simple. Okay, I'm gonna walk upwards. Just gonna walk and use the up key on my D-pad, not D-pad, analog stick. So I'm just moving up right now, as you can tell. When you get the camera, wow, holy shit, the camera turns 360 degrees. So therefore, you can move in all directions so easily. So you can do something natural. You can make it very natural, but just by doing like this. So if you're used to using both left and right analog stick to move around, like I am, then it's completely fine. Like you can see how like natural this feels in my hands. Well, you can't tell, but you can tell like this is natural to me. This is how it feels to play Dark Souls. Does that ever make sense? Like I'm wiggling all over the place because I can't. The DS2. Oh, DS2 allows you. Well, apparently this is a massive issue, an objective issue, you might say.
Have 8 different ways it can run or something?
There are 8 main directions in total.
Nope, there's 16.
So in case this isn't clear, your analog stick doesn't represent a full 360-degree turn. It is limited to roughly 8 directional snap points. This is already bad as a base because it reduces the amount of control a player has over their character, but this is horrendous when considering exploration and platforming. Take this instance where I'm preparing a jump in Majula down to the pit, and I try to move a little bit to one side and the game snaps to 90 degrees. I managed to correct it, but this is incredibly frustrating. This will come up for as long as you are vigilant of your jumps during platforming sections. In this next jump I managed to reach the first increment from turning, but not the second one. The second may have allowed me to pass the jump. Had the controls allowed for 360 degrees, then the jump would have been possible because I aimed correctly, just not far enough to reach an increment. How about this clip where I want to walk across this narrow pathway, and because of the increments that are present in the controls, I have to compensate by going back and forth, and this makes me zigzag.
Firstly, your control isn't reduced, it's just changed. Secondly, what the actual fuck are you doing during the lava jump? I'm watching the clip and you're fucking doing serpentines! Look, I'll show you. Hey, it's me again. You know, I'm back at the same thing again, because, you know, apparently have to babysit MauLers through all the basic controls like moving and jumping. So I'm not going to go through the entire lava area again, because this is New Game Plus, I can't be fucking asked. So we're just going to do it, I don't know, on some grass, for instance. So MauLers gets confused, because there's, let's say, that door right there is what we want to jump to. Because he's got this, like, this little platform, he's got this little platform, like, here, and he wants to jump onto this lava rock. Mind you, you can't actually do that in the game because it's designed to go from the lava rock to that platform rather than the platform to the lava rock. But let's just get past basic directions. So here's how you do it. So what I'm doing here is I'm running straight, then quickly flicking to the right, and jumping. Alternatively, you can look up over here, run to the left, and then jump in the direction of the camera. And again, look at the thing, run to the left, then jump. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close to what you want to get to, and if you missed that, then I guess you're shit Dark Souls 2 then, huh? Okay, bye. Or the bridge, what the fuck are you doing during there? Again, move the camera to compensate. You're walking, so there's no excuse. To conclude, MauLers thinks there's 8 snap points, but even a cursory glance will show you there's 16. MauLers considers that objectively worse, but that's not true. It's just a different control scheme, which is, subjective. I personally find no issue with each control, they're both fine to me. Trying to frame a different control scheme as objectively worse because you can't control it properly is either ignorance or stupidity. Next point, ladders. If you try to approach a ladder with an enemy directly next to it, your character will do an animation showing they cannot climb it. This relinquishes control for a short period, as a punishment for anyone stupid enough to climb a ladder with enemies next to it.
An argument can be made for the fact that you shouldn't be trying to approach a ladder while an enemy is in front of it.
Yeah, exactly. What a pointless complaint. It would clip through an enemy and that looks just awful. Oh, he's got more.
But this happens even when they are clearly out of the way.
Oh god. Oh. Wait, what the fuck's happening? What the fuck?
This can be extremely frustrating, as you can probably imagine.
Nope, the hitbox is clearly on top of him. He attempts to press A whilst the enemy is on his second attack combo, and as such the hitbox is literally on top of him. Nice try. Also there's an enemy next to him whilst the animation plays. Next point, momentum. When falling whilst moving, you can occasionally carry the momentum from your previous movement.
On top of those things, though, there is this weird momentum involved with running and walking during Dark Souls 2.
Hey MauLers, what was the plan there? They didn't even show anything. And what the fuck is this? Why are you doing a 360 with the camera? He shows a few more clips in a similar fashion, just fucking winging his player character right off there. Listen, here's a tip. Just go to the edge and drop down. MauLers calls that accounting for the game's problems. I call that using common sense, and being careful against sheer drops into the ocean. Just takes an extra second to slow down, is all.
Overall, the movement is a fundamentally imperative system that needs to provide full control and response to the player's inputs. If they don't, then it causes many issues. Dark Souls 2's movement system isn't quite functioning in favor of the player. You can account for and work around these problems, and hell, you might even find the system is working perfectly for you. But in a game where the precise movement is incredibly important and can determine whether you die in battle or die while platforming, and you are provided a movement system that removes the chance of total freedom of movement by forcing incremental changes and weird interactions that can easily cause death, this means the system itself is objectively poorly designed, especially because making a normal, functioning, walking around system should not be hard at this point.
Objectively poorly designed. So you see what MauLers' method is, right? Use player-based mistakes and minor issues and then have this long spiel about how it's a fundamentally broken system, and it's objectively poorly designed too. The only valid complaint MauLers has is the momentum. The other two are completely intended by design. How the fuck do you say intended design is objectively bad? Don't even explain why this is so fucking stupid? Fucking next point. Full damage. Play the clip.
Something interesting that they changed in Dark Souls 2 is the fall damage. It is believed that when they created the drop in Medulla, that to compensate for the fact that players would be able to approach it early, they decided to increase the fall damage limits. This has a knock-on effect of giving you extremely punishing amounts of damage in areas that seem completely unnecessary. For instance, the beginning of the game with the first spam bush we've talked about previously, dropping off that ledge is very punishing, as is the drop during the fight with the Ruin Sentinels, despite these areas coming across as opportunities to navigate. But the most annoying would be that the problems I just brought up earlier add to this issue. When on high platforms, the strange incremental movement combined with the fact that as you turn you are pushed forward means that you will be falling to your death often because of the intense fall damage. However, most of the time you'll be falling into pits regardless. This is overall not much of an issue, but it does add to the experience of moving through the world.
Let's see, where does it lead? What? What? What the f-
Are you tired of falling to your death often? Is basic controls too difficult? Try playing better, you fucking idiot. Do I need to explain this? Do I really need to explain why this is so fucking stupid? Fall damage is slightly harder. Big whoop. The pit in Shaded Woods is fair, albeit a minor issue. I wonder you can fix this fall damage issue.
The damage increase in general is simply a change, but in context it can be extremely punishing. Think of it what you will.
Well, you rolled off an elevator for no reason. Also, you have 50 fucking 2 life gems, MauLer. Are you sure it's that fucking punishing? Maybe you can use up your vigor instead of... Before we start, let's get this out of the way for you, MauLer. Hbomberguy had nothing to say about ADP because it wasn't important enough to care about. That's all. Let's get into why. So MauLer explains iframes and ADP. For a little crash course on my side, when you roll, some of the roll animations frames will make you invincible. To simplify, let's say Dark Souls 1 has 11. This changes based on weight and other shit, let's just say 11. Dark Souls 2 has 2 stats, adaptability and attunement, that tie to another stat, agility. Agility is simply how many iframes you will have, and as well as how fast you drink Estus. For most classes, you start with 85 agility, which is 5 iframes, but we'll get into more of that later. MauLer says,
Nothing in the game makes this clear whatsoever. The description for agility is boosts ease of evasion and other actions.
I mean, what could ease of evasion mean? You're right, if you're illiterate, this is not clear at all. Since when has Dark Souls been vague about anything? MauLer also questions why it boosts how fast you drink Estus, but it didn't say in the help screen. Here's a reminder, Dark Souls has always been vague or hidden things. For instance, in Dark Souls 1 you can take the Tail of Dragons and get new weapons. Under the immediate counter, but it seems so important. Well, it's a hidden stat like many other things in Dark Souls. It says on the wiki on the extent of the statistic. I think that's code for, this game wasn't data mined. Oh god. Here comes the whammy. One of the actual worst things MauLer has to say. And can we get these fucking Teletubbies off the screen? What the fuck was I thinking putting this in the video? Stupid twat that I am. Oh, dear me.
The fundamental issue here, however, is that on top of the horrifyingly incompetent way they've translated this to players, resulting in them potentially progressing through the game blissfully unaware of the handicap that has befallen them, iframes are fundamentally more important than literally any other statistic. Health, stamina, dexterity and strength pale in value compared to iframes in its early levels, and so tying it to a stat meant that once players understand that, which they apparently weren't meant to, they would plow their opening levels into ADP as a guarantee of receiving the benefit. This is fundamentally awful in an RPG with meaningful upgrade choices to make. There isn't supposed to be a stat that you value more than another definitively in every build. Many may feel they didn't need the stat, or they like trying to play without it. There shouldn't be much of a difficult argument here to swallow, but when you have the opportunity to triple the amount of time you spend invincible per roll versus leveling more hit points or damage, the choice should be very clear if the player wants to help themselves. I understand that people do feel differently on this topic. You are, faced with adding small pieces of health onto your bar, or adding more for stamina, or you're adding another 10 damage to a weapon that's already striking for 200. Or you can choose to gain an additional 2 seconds of invincibility to your roll. This isn't some small addition. As you can see here, I am currently on low ADP. This means that even when I am timing my rolls as close to the attacks as I can, I am still susceptible to taking damage. But once I level ADP and increase my iframes, dodging with the roll becomes extremely easy by comparison. Now compared with even adding 100 extra hit points, there is absolutely no competition, because I would rather dodge several rolls than have the health to survive an additional half of one. Fundamentally then, we have a system that both punishes the player by not providing them information that is arguably the most important mechanic to the combat, while simultaneously providing a stat that, if they were even made aware of it, increases this resource, nullifying the opening RPG elements of choice by being such a powerful stat compared to others, if the game was kind enough to tell you. This is an abhorrent addition that can only be described as a fundamental rotting of the mechanics that are extremely important at base. But now that has been explained, let's move on and return to it at the end.
I'm sorry for such a long clip, but I wanted you to digest all of it so I could explain why literally everything is absolutely 100% bullshit. This is beyond bullshit in a myriad of ways, from lying to hypotheticals to plain ignorance and stupidity. Nothing about this entire thing is correct. MauLers should be actually fucking ashamed for saying all of this with a straight face, because I don't know how anyone who's played the game can even begin to say this. Let's start. Iframes are fundamentally more important than any other stat at the early game. Well, firstly, MauLers, considering 90% of the fucking enemies in the first 3 areas you can dodge by just moving backwards or to the side, are you sure this is the fucking case? Here's a clip of me dodging a hollow by moving backwards. Here's a clip of me dodging the Cyclops by moving backwards. Secondly, they are way more important stats during the early game. Endurance for an extra roll, achievement for a second slot, vitality to wield heavier armour, or in some cases a sword and a shield without fat rolls. You get what I'm saying. Now, MauLers does claim that if an early player knew what ADP does, they would dump all their points into ADP. Let's put aside that achievement also gives agility. How much ADP would you need to get the same iframes as Dark Souls 1, which is 11? Let's say you're using the Knight Starting class as I did. For achievement, 9 ADP. Let's also say you made no changes to achievement whatsoever. How much point dumping is required for those sweet Dark Souls 1 iframes? Between 11 and 17. By an hour and a half of playtime, what level was I? 31. I beat the last giant and the pursuer, and also bought a bunch of fucking keys, and yet still enough fucking souls to get the same iframes as Dark Souls 1, and 10 more levels. ADP also has a soft cap at 38, so dumping is quite pointless at that point. Do I need to go further? This entire argument reeks of incompetency. Should we go to the next one? Hitboxes is actually one of the more valid complaints. MauLers' next 2 sections, and this one, are probably the most valuable we get to see from MauLers. I would love to go through each clip individually, and I will, but I wanted to remove all the clips I could consider to be valid complaints. This does not include duplicate issues. So, if an ogre grabs you, and you have 4 clips of that same enemy grabbing you, it just counts as 1. Let's go through all the invalid complaints. 2140. You can see the sword connect with the enemy. It looks silly, but it looks fine. 2303. There's a major issue with these clips because you can't tell if these types are due to iframes or an actual hitbox error. If it's iframes, it's not a fault. I have to invalidate these just in case. 2312. The starting frame seems to connect here? 2317. MauLers, you literally rolled onto fire, not the giant attacking you. 2324. This one just looks fine to me. 2356. This is intentional, it just looks weird. 2440. There isn't any way around how grabs work in Dark Souls. You got grabbed, so the grab has to happen. I'm sorry it looks weird, but that's just the way it is. It's not a hitbox error, it's just the way a video game has to work. Every Dark Souls game has this, they just mask it. MauLers doesn't really handwave away this line of thinking though, he just evades it with another point. Listen man, some things just look silly in a video game. The game registers a grab, and the animation has to happen. Deal with it. 2534. It connects, but iframes ran out. Oops. 2541. I consider this intentional due to the way it kicks up dust, makes me think the hitbox is made to be larger, and you roll just barely into it. I could be wrong. 2543. Iframes. 2544. Iframes. 2545. Iframes. 2551. Looks like it just barely connects. 2556. It's iframes again. 2604. It's iframes again. This one does look a little bit iffy though, just a little bit. 2608. Iframes. 2609. Iframes. 2611. Iframes. 2612. It looks like the Knight's Foot connects with MauLer there. Maybe. 2619. Iframes. 2623. Iframes. 2631. Like iframe Scoob. 2640.
Raggy. Iframes. 2655. Iframes.
2657. This one depends on how close a weapon should connect for it to count. This is barely off. 2706. You rolled into his body. How could you not take damage? 2708.
Iframes.
2714. It's iframes again! 2716. This is intentional, guys. This is intentional. 2731. It just connects. It just connects. 2742. Iframes. Nice glasses, twat. 2851. You'll never guess. 2930. Woo! Iframes, baby! Woo! Iframes. So that's all the hitbox errors I can invalidate. Now, MauLer wants to prove that these hitbox errors are for the majority of enemies in the majority of areas, but as we can see, 40 is not the majority. DS2 has more than 100, but let's take this math even further. My run in Scholar was 33 hours. That means that every 50 minutes, a hitbox error will occur, including minor ones. And since there's multiple players, this amount goes even lower. If I told you every hour of a game you play would have one bug, is that enough for it to be bad? People really enjoy Bethesda games, and that's like a bug a minute. Listen, I won't say that hitboxes are better than DS1 or DS3. I'm just saying that when you lay it all out, it stops being a massive issue, and more of an over-exaggeration to claim gotcha points. 41 valid clips, 30 invalid. Don't know what else to say, really. Except that this kind of shit you had to witness and I had to go through. That's an hour of this fucking video! Next. Oh boy, AI. More knows what code is surely not going to seem like he doesn't know what he's saying. This is a short subsection to a larger section we'll get to in a moment. 7 valid, 6 invalid. 3028. So this is a clip MauLer recycles constantly because he thinks it's the holy grail of bugs and it's like god tier in comedy with just how funny it is. Realistically, this bug is actually super minor. The enemy thinks there's a drop there, because that part is an elevator. Since it can't walk into open space, it just stands still. This is a valid complaint I just need to bring up because MauLer stretches out for 15 minutes, and I had to watch all 15 of those fucking minutes. 3128. Wait, huh? This is an AI glitch. This is just an extremely minor bug. The range of dialogue probably doesn't even take into account collision. I'm not saying this is valid, it's just so extremely minor, and it's not even fucking AI. It's nothing. What is this? What is it doing here? 3144. This knight has a move where he darts directly forward, then slashes his sword. Since enemies don't cancel attacks, in any Souls game, as far as I know, he just darts off a platform. Not an AI bug, really. 3155. This one's also intended. I just want to bring it up because the quote, "Nope, this seems to be intended." So MauLer doesn't understand replicatable bugs? Maybe he does and he's being obtuse? I don't know. This video's making me crazy. 3238. These guys at the table deliberately have a tiny aggro range. Like, deliberately. This is intended. 3245 is intended, although silly. 3308. This one's intended. It's a trap. If they aggro before you enter, it wouldn't be a trap anymore. 3323. Enemies don't aggro each other. Some enemies have group aggro, but enemies don't inherently aggro each other. There's not much to say here, is there? This is an AI bug every 5 hours. Let's move on to the big ones, or the small ones, because this is pathing. So this is for the big ones, and you get big one every 5 hours. Maybe. Maybe? Who knows? Next one please. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, this one actually sucks because MauLer got an insane amount of clips that are actually valid. Pathing is however a minor issue in the grand scheme of it. Only 7 invalid, 67 valid. 3453. The enemy doesn't have a way to attack or reach that bit. It's a wall. 3513. There is no enemy in any of the fucking Dark Souls games that jump gaps. Why are you showing this? You know that enemies don't jump gaps. What the fuck? 5530. What is de-aggroing? 3600. The gargoyles can't jump. Not really a valid complaint. 3830. Nope, not valid. You might question this one. How could it not be? Well, for this to work, you need to kill every enemy except these crawly boys. Literally every enemy. Any other enemy will attack these seats and destroy them. And you need to deliberately stay behind a pew. Also, the crawly boys are deliberately really shit at attacking. 4016. Again, enemies don't cancel attacks. Yep, that's all of them. I know it seems like MauLer had a lot, but don't forget, this is from multiple playthroughs, and they're minor. This is probably the most highest legitimate criticism MauLer will have in this video. 67 will meet every half hour, not so bad for such a minor error. Don't forget, 67 if you are multiple people at once. Next. Here's a fun one. We have to go through 90 fucking clips. This is just subjective complaints for the sake of whining to pad an already long series. I thought we were doing objective only MauLer. Apparently the previous Dark Souls just never had gimmicks, and Dark Souls 2 is a first timer to gimmicks. I see I don't like gimmicks as I don't like new strategies. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Hilariously, people argue that the bosses are too similar, whilst also arguing there's too many boss gimmicks. However that works. On his shit list is bosses that heal. So MauLer has a big shit list on any boss that heals, doesn't matter if it's slow regen or a big cast. So let's go through each boss. Myva heals very slowly in poison, slow enough that you have to be basically doing no damage to not attack better than a heal. Myva is an easy boss, and a poison and a heal are designed to make you panic. MauLer, we can see how much damage you do. Throwing Watcher and Defend have a mechanic where if one is killed, the other will revive after 20 seconds. 20 is a long period of time in Dark Souls. You can kill most bosses in about 1 minute. Besides, these enemies are quite weak health-wise. Lud and Zalins again are a very slow regen, it's just to apply pressure. The Fume Knight's a fun one. MauLer complains that if you explore the entire DLC before fighting the Fume Knight, and use all the smart wedges before entering the boss, you'd have one missing. A very specific case, but still. If only there was some way to lure a boss away from one corner. I agree with Looking Glass Knight though. I disagree that PvP and boss is a bad combination though. I'll go from Dark Souls 3 is pretty fucking good. This is a little aside, but I thought I'd read out all the actual gimmicks in Dark Souls 1, because it's not just Dark Souls 2 that has boss gimmicks, but it's also Dark Souls 1, interestingly enough, so let's read them out. Crossbeam Priscilla has invisibility. Dark Sun Gwendolyn is like projectiles only and teleports. Four Kings requires a ring and is like pitch black. Let's see, yeah. Moonlight Butterfly flies around, basically does like a landing specific thing. Pinwheel splits into multiple types and is also terrible. Ornstein Smoke is like the first dual enemy in the game, I think. Like the first two types of enemies in like one boss. Seafer Scaleless has a thing that requires you to hit before you can kill him properly. The Bed of Chaos. And that's all I can think of. Okay, bye. Sudden gear shift?
Now, to switch gears quite significantly, I want to talk about the RPG aspects of Dark Souls 2 that are often celebrated in terms of player choice. We covered how ADP is a monkey wrench in terms of localizing a player's choice to one from many, but there is a double whammy of nonsense in Dark Souls 2, and that is the overabundance of souls and thus levels. As long as you play relatively carefully and bank the souls of what you kill while moving slowly and carefully through the game, you will be pushed to cap out all of the stats you actually needed and then sort of splurge on extra stuff.
Okay, carry on. Oh shit, too many levels? Hang on 1 second. Personally, after 33 hours and a very enjoyable experience, killing every single boss except 3, I ended up at level 150. This was after completing the 3 DLCs. I would say that I'm slightly above average for most Dark Souls players. When I started the DLCs, I was about level 110. Not so much, right? Considering the DLC is endgame content and all, I know you can access it early, but it's definitely for higher levels. I really don't need to entertain this point much. At 150, I had only reached 4 subcaps. That's not much really, considering I skipped ADP entirely. 150 is what I expect the average person to get, and it's a perfectly fine thing to end on, especially with New Game Plus down the line. If you have an issue with this MauLer, I recommend putting limitations on yourself. You know, to make the game harder and more challenging. Equip a Calamity Ring, or the ring that doesn't give you more souls. Go SL1. Do a weird build. MauLer shows himself leveling to 199, actually makes it occurring on the first playthrough, for a beginner or a veteran. Anyway, next one. Wait, huh? What? Okay. Talent slabs can be farmed indefinitely. For me, I had 20 at the end of my playthrough. I meant to say playthrough. 6 of which I used. It's not ridiculous, as 4 of those slabs would be put onto your armour as well. So if you want to do a weapon and an armour set, that's 5. So 4 sets, and that's all you get for the entire playthrough, unless you want to pump ascetics or farm. Not so bad when you put it into perspective. Well, it then uses Bloodborne. Wait, That could also reference anything from the game in question to make a defense for it. Huh, so you can't for defense, but completely fine if you want to attack the game. Fair. Now, MauLer will use clips from DLC as evidence that they happen so often. I would counter by saying that maybe an endgame area should drop endgame items. Do you also question why there's so many Elizabeth mushrooms?
Again, this is down to the person on what they prefer.
Why the fuck are you talking about preference? Your feelings don't matter, MauLer.
Also, side note, did anyone else think the description on this ring was fucking stupid?
Wait, MauLer, don't. No! So this is a concept that's stolen straight from Fortia. Fortia and MauLer are friends. Nice. Either MauLer is so stupid as not to do basic research, or there's something Fortia related to MauLer, and it's just shoved into the video with no thought. So York's ring says, sometimes deflect spells. Now, firstly, Dark Souls has always been fucking vague as shit about everything. You really have to not understand anything about Dark Souls and to say it's very clear about everything it does. It obfuscates a lot of things. For York's ring, it's 50%. So should the description say 50%? Does the player character know advanced mathematics like division? Keep in mind this is a medieval fantasy setting. Secondly, if MauLer was smart, he could use other rings. Ring of Whispers' description is, can hear the voices of foes. What does that mean? Duh! Really, a large majority of rings are vague, but that's the point. That's not a flaw, that's just the way Souls games are. Next. Let me be honest here, I can't really fully defend human effigies. Really, I have no issue with them either way. They're a mechanic. I like both 2 and 3's version, especially 3's, and dislike 1's because it felt too complex. That's me though.
Those who are new to the game have a strong chance of running out and suffering for it.
Hey, citation needed! Also, you can farm effigies. They're probably the easiest one to farm as well in any of the Souls games. You can also just burn an aesthetic and easily just collect them. The one boss I ran out of effigies with, I went to Medulla, popped an aesthetic, and that was it. I had enough to keep going. New players are more likely to use summoning because they're not elitist fucks, so it's risk and reward really. Veteran players, however, well, listen.
Veteran players who grab the ring for it as quickly as possible, nullifying 50% of the effect, and then you have them playing through the game without using effigies. After all, effigies act as tokens to attempt Dark Lurker, or generally, veterans just don't seem to feel the need to use them outside of maybe a preparation for a boss.
The way I see it, veterans won't find it useless as veterans still die. They'll die less and therefore have less of a need to, especially since they don't require summons because they're so cool and tough. I see the same way as DS3's Embers, really. I don't think you should invalidate effigies just because of the Ring of Binding. 25% less max XP is still a pretty big deal. Apparently veterans are swarming with effigies that are useless, but also out of effigies that they need this ring? Whatever, it's another subjective addition to pad for time. I respect the opinion that effigies might hurt new players, but DS2 was my first and it never hurt me. Also, if you cry because you get invaded whilst hollow, use the blue sentinels! Okay, on to objective issues. That's big quotation marks right there, baby. Dark Souls 2 repairing is somehow even worse. Somehow. By making it way more simple and intuitive, it is worse. Let's get into that. Now your weapon degrades very fast, but resets for every time you sit at a bonfire for some reason. Shit, what would you prefer? Sitting at a bonfire and mashing repair on all your equipment that took damage for like 40 souls, which was required as a prerequisite item from the fucking blacksmith, or just sitting at a fucking bonfire?
The only thing this does is get in the fucking way. 90% of the time you'll not even notice there's a system functioning in the background for this.
Gee, the red bar directly under the weapon and all your equipment going down isn't an indication enough? The fact is from a previous Souls game isn't enough either? Keep going, no?
When it does affect you, however, it is monumentally obstructive. They made it so that this feature is applicable to your armor and rings for some reason.
Who knew those things could break? If that wasn't a thing, you'd probably cry inconsistency and start frothing at the mouth. Continue.
The incredible result is, in select moments of the game, you can simply lose all of your gear and you'll be forced to go back home before you can continue playing the game. I mean, you could obviously push through, but if you want to help yourself, you will go back.
Hold up, is he using the same argument Hbomberguy used for life gems, which he cut into? Okay, I don't need to use more clips. Listen, if you think you need to go back, switch into other gear! Repair powder! Fuck! Also, the enemies are literally bright orange when they use equipment breakage. You have to be blind not to be cautious around this. I don't know what to say to this. A pointless mechanic in DS1 is expanded to an actual hazard to worry about. This makes it worse because, what? You keep running into an orange bug? Equipment breakage is really rare in DS2, and it is extremely explicit. Lastly, it's not a fucking objective issue! Nothing about this is presented as such. Where does the objectivity come in? I really want to know! Where? The focus system, or locking on if you know what the name of mechanic you're talking about is. Let's be clear about the lock-on system. It's a tool, not a crutch. If you took a hammer and instead of using it for nails, you started using it for barring your toast, or for as a nice pillow, you know. You can't use the lock-on system with 20 enemies and expect to have an easy time. This is another barrage of clips, so what you're watching right now is invalid. Next clip. 5800. This was the closest enemy to MauLer. 5807. Maybe I'm blind, but I can't spot the issue here. 5832. I don't see an issue here either. It doesn't show the lock-on happening, just someone's locking onto enemy really far away. Just tap the right analog stick twice. 5900. He's like 2 feet next to you. Calm down. 5906. Oh boy, this is the one that never fails to make me mad. Why would it lock onto something that's behind you? Well, what does MauLers say?
Just how fucking horrible this is, by the way. He's on a straight path heading directly for an enemy, and instead of targeting that one, the game chooses the enemy that was on the back of a bunch of enemies behind him, causing the camera to turn, causing his forward movement to push him off the platform.
I can answer that. Because it's an entire bridge away. It's the entire distance of a fucking bridge. Look at this. How could you look at this clip and say, why wouldn't it target 50 meters away? I feel no sympathy for this stupid fucking clip. 50 fucking meters. Suck my fucking dick and balls. 10010. Does anyone see the issue with the clip? Cause I don't.
The point is that this system, when it works, is fine, but when it doesn't work, it is catastrophic to the gameplay. It is a fundamental mechanic that is incredibly important, so of course they fucked it up. Also, for your notes, if your immediate response to this is, well, I didn't notice anything, or, it didn't happen to me, or, I think it works fine, then you're missing the point. This thing is unfinished and it's causing trouble for select players, which makes it an objective problem, but perhaps you'd like an additional argument for that conclusion.
Well, I didn't notice anything. It didn't happen to me. I think it works fine. It's not trouble for select players, it's trouble for all players, rarely. I think you're missing the point if you dismiss those quotes. Oh, additional arguments. Part 2, baby. Part 2, baby. 10142. Is there an issue with this one? I'm not sure, I just see a guy mashing the attack. This could be an example of the lock-on system being used right? Not a mind reader. 10150. Same here. Who knows? 10153. If you roll and are facing 180 degrees away from the enemy and mash attack, you'll have a hard time. The other part of this is valid, however. 10159. Okay, this is an interesting one. I have to explain this. Oh god, what's he done again? I don't want to do this anymore. Fucking whatever. Okay, you ready for this? Hang on. Don't need sound. Alright, MauLer. So this is a little fun thing. You ready for this? I'm gonna hit the RB on my controller. Actually, you get the correct sword. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. And you get slash frost sword instead of a strike sword. Ultra great sword, nice bad. RB. Now, I'm gonna do quite a kind of cool thing, right? I'm gonna hold RB, but also go to the left on my analog stick. Wow, I attack to the left with the analog stick. Let's do that again. I'm holding to the right, and I attack, and I go, that's weird. Oh, that's weird, isn't it? As such, I have to disqualify all of these because I can't say whether this is a legitimate issue or just a player fuck-up. I have had the Ultra Great Sword not do what it wanted, but I can't tell if that's the case here. I would say that the UGS has never veered to the side or behind, it just veered slightly to the side of the enemy. 10228. You're facing the opposite direction. Nope. 10232. Ultra Great Sword. 10236. It's not veering. The lock-on is simply higher up than usual for an enemy, and therefore the attack goes upwards slightly. Oh, the horror! 10240. Ultra Great Sword. 102.42. I'm not sure about this one. Opposite direction, or maybe it's valid. Who knows? 102.44. A lawn moved as you attacked. A completely fair missed attack. 102.47. Ultra Great Sword. 102.48. Ultra Great Sword. You notice MauLer also understands the left analog stick movement, but dismisses it. Wait, are you seriously saying you prefer less player control in a Souls game? That is nuts. You can say the lock-on system needs to be fine-tuned, but don't say the aiming with the greatsword is a big thing. In Dark Souls 3, this system is made even stronger, so it's definitely not a bad idea. Also, not valid. 103.07. I'm just unsure about this one. 103.16. Like Ultra Great Sword Scoob. 103.23. Mr. Twatface rolls and faces 180 degrees away from the enemy twice. 103.33. Ultra Great Sword.
How does that miss?
103.48. Ultra Great Sword. 103.56. Attacking out of a roll. A bacon roll. 104.14. It's an Ultra Great Sword. 104.23. God, there's a fucking lot of these. It's an Ultra Great Sword. 104.45. It's an Ultra Great Sword. I can see you move back as you attack, man. 104.42. Attacking over roll. It's not on purpose, you fucking man, baby. 104.56. Ultra Great Sword. You can see it jitter a little. I believe that's why, because it's player controlled there. 105.00. Ultra Great Sword. 105.07. Attacking out of a roll. 105.16. Unsure, could be valid, could not be. 4-tier. Please stop whining like a baby. I've had children in like public transport that whine and cry quieter than you do. 105.30. Too close, possibly valid, fundamentally, inherently broken. So as we can see, the majority of these attacking our roll or using the Ultra Great Sword are missing. So by fundamentally inherently broken, he means rarely bugs out, sometimes in general, or on two specific weapon types it might break, or it might be the player fucking up. Ah no, I'm not convinced. The issue is MauLer will say that it is broken, which is true, but to what degree is it broken? Not very, as we can see. It's this very deliberate but also vague language where you have to agree with it, but it's in the context of saying the game's terrible, which it isn't. 18 valid to 35 invalid. I can't really say you're correct, MauLer. Stop talking like a politician and talk like a fucking human. Next one is another clip barrage. I don't have intros for these anymore. 48 valid, 15 invalid. 105.42. That was not gonna be a backstab. 106.18. This one doesn't look like a backstab in both cases. 106.50. A boldly colours jester's cap, robe, gloves, tights. A nice bit of fun to try on. Robe effect nullifies foes' critical hits. Huh, you spent 4 months on this series and you don't even know the jester's robe effect? That's pretty sad. 107.40. This is intentional. I have to disqualify these because they are intended in the game and completely fair. Would you prefer it work like grabs works? Of course not, that looks silly if the enemies pull to you. Please don't contradict yourself. This is completely fine part of the mechanic. I'm not going to show the rest of these for your sanity and mine. I did it with the greatsword and I feel like doing that twice is going to be, just too much. 110.24. A boldly coloured jester's cap, robe, gloves, tights. A nice bit of fun to try on. Robe effect nullifies foes' critical hits. So this is the final stretch. MauLer considers everything we've just been through to be the significant errors. This includes boss gimmicks, too many slabs, and rings. Apparently those are major. Anyway, hang in there a little longer, we're going through the last few parts. I'm so sorry the video is structured like this. This isn't my fault. How else do I invalidate clips without going for the invalid ones? See, if you dislike the way this is structured, imagine the fact MauLer puts 5 times the amount into his video. Let's get into the sports stuff.
Fragrant branches of yore were a mistake in Scholar. They literally locked off areas arbitrarily while also providing both useless items and imperative paths for the game, while almost maniacally keeping the information on whether or not a statue would actually lead to these things from the player. Hell, the way you make boss weapons from one of the actual NPCs is unlocked through a statue that couldn't look more useless. On top of that, there are 2 branches you can only get by unlocking the correct statues that precede them, thus making it possible to lock them off permanently. But perhaps the most incompetent part of all of that is that there is a fragrant branch you can only get from completing the albeit small quests from the Scorpion Dude. But if you decide to kill him, as I did on my first playthrough and a friend did, then you can't get it. And thus you can't unlock all of the statues in multiple ways. It is such an embarrassingly stupid system that makes you wonder why they even put it in. The game would be far better off with literally no statues, but the way they handled it? Holy shit.
Had to let that all play out. It's all just a lot of nonsense. Firstly, locking off areas isn't arbitrary, but intentional. In Things Betwixt, it holds off an Estus upgrade, as well as the Ogre area of the Pursuer, and the Coffin gender change thing. In Dragon Eyrie, it locks off getting to the dragon early with all the ore lizards. You'd have to run from the end to the start otherwise. They don't tell you what item they'll give because it's just part of the risk of expending a rare resource. That's how Dark Souls is. The boss soul one couldn't look more useless, but in a game like Dark Souls, wouldn't the most obviously useless one be the most obvious to be a trick, and therefore a useful one? You can't lock off fragrant branches permanently. You can farm fragrance branches in multiple areas. Fragrance branches. They're handled completely fine, an optional path or resource to grab. This is just complaining without thinking too far into said complaint. Next. Right, let's just not put the clips on for this one. In every single playthrough of Dark Souls 2 I've done, Vanilla or Scholar, I've been headshotted an average of once. The stagger time is higher, but archers are way less annoying to deal with compared to DS1. In the Gobby playthrough I did on the stream, the one time it happened is because I was directly next to an archer. A little tip, fucking pay attention to the game. Fucking next one. Another clip barrage, albeit not exactly a valid and invalid one this time. Get ready. 11418. What's a low render animation? Dark Souls don't have any of those. 11440. I feel like that's the point of this area, being with lots of sun and water, hence washed out. 11442. This is also the point. The sun's meant to be pretty strong in Medulla, otherwise it's stops becoming a... This is off script. 11443. Major upgrade from Dark Souls 1, I'd say. 11448. The one that kills you has an ore lizard jumping into it. Also read the messages. Major upgrade from the bullshit Dark Souls 1 pools. Have you heard of See the Dragon and his fucking invisible walkways and the fact that he kills you and you don't even know? 11505. The AI. Ragdoll physics isn't AI. The way I see it, the ragdoll needs to settle against the geometry. However, with some complex parts, it can't settle and instead moves about until it does settle. Also, ragdolls reset when you re-render an area, so when you come back, that's why it looks weird. 11545, that's not 2 character death animations, that's a pain animation, and then a death animation directly after it. That is a weird bug though. 11600. Oh fuck off, you haven't been positive at all in this entire video, you cunt. 11648. Why didn't they test the cloth physics in every cutscene? Heresy, that's what I say. Also, this game isn't leprosy. Don't be a drama queen. 11700. What's the model error there? Am I blind? 11715. You're going up whilst on a downward slope. Surely you can think why you'd slide down a little. 11725. Something wrong with this clip? Because I don't see it. 11743. Just want to say this is my favourite glitch in the game, and the actual worst glitch DS2 has. It's fucking hilarious. 11900. This is half bug, half intentional, half strange. During the menu, it fades out sound, yet for the water, it completely silences it for a bit, not sciences like I keep saying. I don't know, this is a nitpick really, and I like how it kind of feels tactile in a way. Like how the noise of the items is so important that everything has to chill out for a bit. It's more apparent in water though, so it might be a bug. 11947. I actually like this. In Dark Souls 1, the boss defeated thing overpowers it, so it looks like it fades out. It doesn't though, it doesn't fade out a fucking tool, so it's also in Dark Souls 1. I like how as soon as you kill a boss, you immediately get the moment of calm so you can soak in that you defeated him. A fade out would be good, but I wouldn't call it a flaw. It's just a change, almost. 12050. The splash sounds are all wrong. In Drangleic Castle, it's raining constantly. It's not just wet, the entire ground is basically puddles. It's hard to make that look right graphically, so they use the sound. But they're so wrong to MauLer and his buddies! 12120. It did not bug out at all. Please actually test this shit, it took me 2 minutes. Basically, combustion has 2 sound effects, one for when it's cast and one for when it connects. The explosion sound is when it connects. To test this! It took me literally a minute to test this. Okay, everything's fine. Hey MauLer, here's the first sound effect. That's the noise. Then we're gonna get the second noise when you hit an enemy. Explosion sound. Let me just, you can hear that, right? Probably, you can hear that properly. Shh, everybody be quiet. Explosion sound. Regular sound. See a little harp, just make sure you really fucking get in how obvious this fucking testing requires. No hit. Hit. 2 hits, because it counts as no hit, then it counts as a hit at the end of the animation. So it's both sound effects. Do you understand now? Do you understand everything? Do you understand Dark Souls 2 yet? Don't go for any more of this shit? Don't just sit here and babysit you to do basic fucking fact testing? Fucking get me out of this fucking simulation. 12230. I'll be the contrarian. I love credits. Listen, if you want to skip credits, press Alt F4 and there you go. If you're frothing at the mouth over this, please see a doctor. You have rabies. It is literally 9 minutes. Whatever quality of life changes are undone by this horrid mistake. Please, calm down. It's just some fucking credits. He says it's minor, but horrid mistake that undoes everything. Doesn't sound like you take this minorly, MauLer. 12330. The B team argument. Well, shame that MauLer doesn't say anything with this. He just brings up because to waste time. And this is the end of the video. Well, it kind of is. There's 21 minutes of MauLer's video, but it might as well be 20 minutes of someone blowing raspberries or interpretive dance. It means nothing. However, I still desire more. More, damn it, more. Well, he brings up in this video, so I get to defend it. Life gems are one of the best ideas Dark Souls thought of. Not even joking. Calm down and let me explain nice and slow. See, for beginner players, it's very easy to run out of Estus or to use Estus a little liberally, or make mistakes. The solution? Life gems. Life gems come in many types of strength, but the one people use is the infinite Bible one, which costs 300 souls and gives 500 HP over 11 seconds. 11 seconds is quite a long time. Let's get into the positives of life gems. You can counteract poison or other damage over time effects. You can stack life gems for a stronger heal, like Estus. You can preempt an attack by popping a gem, so you get healed as you are being attacked. Useful for grabs, especially with the tiger bitch that I had to fight like 40 times. You can top off small amounts of health loss. You can explore areas much longer without returning to the bonfire. You can drop life gems, which is good for co-op. It's useful during early game as Estus would be weaker than life gems. It can cover up any mistake that isn't the player's fault, such as group attacks. So that's pretty good. This means if anyone needs it, Dark Souls become attrition based, which makes it a lot easier to counteract mistakes. I want to get into why people dislike life gems, the most common arguments, and pull them apart. Firstly, what if you buy 99 life gems as a beginner? Well, 99 life gems is 29,700 souls. As a beginner, that's pretty tough to come across, especially when stats are quite useful. Especially ADP. By the time you can get 99 life gems, they're not as important. Secondly, wouldn't that make it too easy? Well, Dark Souls has always had difficulty being more of a scale rather than binary. You can wear a Calamity Ring, go fists only, SL1, and play the game like that. Or you can summon 3 people, wear full Havel, and carry 99 life gems. It's your choice as the player. I can say it's the first time where the life gems were important, but I never felt 99 life gems was needed. Also, life gems heal so slowly that you don't become God mode with 99 of them, it just means you last longer in a fight, you're still susceptible to taking a lot of damage. You still have to time your heals on point, and life gems are slower than Estus. If you have a problem with life gems, just don't fucking use them! But don't make up stupid hypotheticals to fuel your stupid elitist argument. People will only replay an area so many times before they give up, and people only pick up a game so many times before they put it down forever. I was one of those people, and Dark Souls 1 was that game I put down, but Dark Souls 2 is the one I kept going in. This is because Dark Souls 2 allows the player to play a lot safer. Also, I've hilariously noticed that in nearly every MauLer clip, everyone has a fuck ton of life gems. What's wrong, guys? Too casual? Look, this wasn't even mentioned in the video. I just want to say that you should probably watch Hbomberguy's video again, play Dark Souls 2 without shield, and realise how often the game conditions you to use a shield sparingly, especially in the early sections. That isn't to say that you should not use a shield, or that you're wrong to use a shield, but if you're glued to hiding behind a shield, is that more fun than being confident? I don't think it is. When I replayed Dark Souls 2 after my full Havel, full strength build from my first ever Souls playthrough, one of the most liberating realizations is that dropping my shield and trying something else was both fun, it was also way cooler. Rather than simply raising my shield and soaking an attack, I would dodge and weave and get lovely swings in that I couldn't get usually. This also happened during the Havel through, right near the end. Vendrick is just too tough to block attacks, and so I was forced to roll. The focus I had to put into rolls, especially on 5 iframes, no ADP, was very fun when I got the win. I've argued that Dark Souls 2 feels much better with less use of shield, and people always misinterpret what I say. Bloodborne, as H1 puts it, says it best. Shields are nice, but not if they engender passivity. Please reread that again until it's hammered into your fucking head. Being passive in a Dark Souls game is just less fun. If you had more fun in a Dark Souls game where you were passive rather than assertive, then let me know, but you probably don't exist. I really don't have anything... Oh, wait, yes I do. Okay, just a little bit more.
Or backwards within. The theme is fantastic, but the storytelling is as poor as ever while retreading its predecessor and narratively obstructing itself in favour of a more streamlined experience.
MauLer. This video was released after the Dark Souls 3 DLC. Surely you're smart enough to realise this story is intentional and also really good. Fuck me. Now to a few quickfires. 12930. We've already discussed this, because it's challenging. 12937, because you'll still have 25% of your max HP. Leave this in. 12942, because there's multiple ways to evade a counter enemy other than dodging, walking backwards, strafing, circle strafe, blocking, and running, for example. ADP is a small amount at the start because the enemies are designed to be extremely easy to dodge without rolling. Joseph Anderson makes a great point about this. And again, it's easy to get 9 iframes and be completely none the wiser. Also, you get a higher amount of iframes if you're going for certain builds. 12950, you really don't need ADP. It's optional, you can max out attunement if you wanted to. 13000, only in the case of ultra great swords, also because sometimes systems don't work perfectly. 13010, gasp, a mushroom! They are secrets, but they require a limited resource, and by limited, it's very easy to get more. 13020, good point about the steal, but you can read messages or use life gems during the poison bit. 13034, only 2 boss gauntlets are bad in my opinion. There's not really any spam in the game at any point. Swarms don't count because they're weak and very easy to deal with. Also, the game does train you to deal with them. As for despawning, it makes it easier to traverse areas you're having a tough time with, and discourage farming, especially since bonfire aesthetics exist. Aesthetics. I don't give a shit. I don't know, this argument just doesn't mesh together. 13042. What are the Blue Sentinels? Not including the clip for this, but MauLer mentions how DS3 doesn't port over a lot of DS2's mechanics. Let's be real, it's a fucking shame. A large quantity of DS2 features added would be amazing to see in DS3, and MauLer agrees with me, sort of. He says some are terrible, but doesn't go into any of them. He mentions there's more DS1 in DS3, but doesn't say whether that's good or bad, so why mention it? But we're at the end of the video. Oh, yes! 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 Whoa, we did it, baby! We're at the end of the video! Yeah! Put it in the video, put this in the video, put this in the video, we're putting this in the video. It's 2:36 in the morning, I've been recording for like 4 hours. This entire thing's going in. Don't care if it's off the script. Don't care how silly it looks. Put it in. Fuck me. Dark Souls 2 is fun to play, and it is beautiful, and it is varied. And, best of all, it runs at 60 frames per second, and doesn't fuck with me constantly. I'm talking to you, Sifa Scalers. You maybe lose 20k souls, because apparently the developers thought having a boss that's unkillable, like insta-kills you, is fair. In a Dark Souls game! It is a solid game with many minor to moderate flaws that, depending on how you feel, is quite the make or break. But, compared to DS1, DS2 is solid. It never fluctuates between Bed of Chaos and Gwyn. It is a solid game throughout, with only some areas being kinda bad. Dark Souls 1, however, is a terrible game that has sprinkles of something good that needs to be refined for a great experience. Bed of Chaos, see Phase 1 and Phase 2, Centipede Demon, Blighttown, the fucking ugly graphics, did you see these 2D Minecraft trees? The frame rate, the parry and shield cheesing, the gotcha moments like with Sif, the visible walkway area with the butterflies, Lost Islip, the netcode, the lack of build variety. I could go on, but these are whole areas that have just brought me misery, and they ruined all the fun. The frame rate was enough to make me quit. Thank God for an unofficial patch that only kind of fixes the game. Why am I saying this? Because MauLer is the polar opposite. DS1 for me is DS2 to him, and vice versa. I don't see how you consider Dark Souls 1 to be cracks. They are holes. They are entire areas and bosses. See, Dark Souls 2 is beautiful and fun in ways you can't quantify. It's stuff you can't see objectively. This is how it is with all games.
If you are going to argue why DS2 is actually an amazing game, then make sure your argument doesn't involve feelings, because I don't have time for them.
Really, MauLer? You have 4 months of time to make a 9.5-hour series where you go through every single word of a 1.5-hour video made of a D-list fucking YouTuber, but you don't have time for subjective opinions about this game, even though you also used them during this video. So I ask again, do you have the time or not?
Before I end here, I want to address a singular comment from Harris's video, which, for all of you who've been following this series, this is essentially the last part of that series, but as I said, it functions on its own as well. Do you remember when he said this?
Dark Souls 2 does a lot of really great things with play conditioning also, things that other critics dismiss as minor tweaks, or just don't talk about at all. In the Bloodborne video, my central example was the shield, and we might as well start there too, because people don't fucking mention this.
So how come you didn't mention the absolute myriad of issues this game has either? Where in the hell were hitboxes? Where was the AI? Where was the ADP? I'm not trying to pour more soil onto his grave, but his video was so bloody awful. Some people have told me it might have actually been parody, and that I've made a sort of mistake in responding to it as seriously as I did. But you don't understand. It doesn't matter, because my videos now exist, and they stand as a testament to what Dark Souls 2 objectively offers you. What you take from that offering is down to the person, I suppose.
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the goal of my video going on here. You know, I made that video to explore aspects of the game that I felt were underexplored at the time, as an exercise in ways of looking at games that I felt didn't happen all that often, and to talk about just positive aspects of Dark Souls 2 that I felt went missing in some of the more harsh criticism of its negative aspects. So there are plenty of aspects of the game that I chose not to talk about. In fact, if, as MauLer insists, some aspects of the game are objectively, provably bad, why would I waste the time re-talking about how those things are in fact bad before I move on to the point of the video, which is the things that I thought were good about it? I find the question itself a little bit perplexing, like, why didn't you mention this obvious thing that everyone already knows? Well, because everyone, to me, the question kind of answers itself there. I actually agree with a lot of existing criticisms of Dark Souls 2. There's a reason why I didn't do a massive response to Matthew Matosis, because a lot of what he says is quite accurate. MauLer spends a fairly shockingly large amount of his very long video series knocking on an open door. It's not a mistake to choose not to talk about something that's already been established over and over and is apparently provably objective. As for the hitboxes themselves, I must admit I didn't notice them being that much better or worse than the rest of the Souls series. I kind of think that the entire series, including Bloodborne, has problems in that department. I think in retrospect, I would have mentioned them, but I would have mentioned them almost as like a joke. Like I would have had an extra segment that's like 10 seconds long called like part whatever the hitbox is, and I'd have just said, the hitboxes have some problems and it could be better, and then just gone on to the next segment. I think maybe this is just a question of differences in style. You know, for some people, that aspect of the game is something you really have to talk about if you're going to criticize it, even if the whole point of the video is to talk about things that aren't talked about very often. Whereas to me, it's more like a missed opportunity to make a joke before returning to the actual focus of my video. As for adaptability, in my experience of the game, I never found it to be a problem. It's something I learned about through someone else explaining that it was a problem to me and linking a video that showed frame-by-frame dodge rolls with different adaptability levels. And for me, when a problem with the game only happens when someone sits you down with like a frame-by-frame breakdown, then it doesn't occur to me as a major flaw in the game. Like, yeah, it could be better communicated, and it is weird that it is that way, and it could be fixed. Like, it's basically, like, I agree that it's a flaw on some level, but subjectively, in terms of an experience, it just didn't impact my experience very much. So I didn't think to talk about it because it never really occurred to me as a thing that I needed to debunk, at least to me. And as I've said, I kind of get why someone would be annoyed by that, so I feel no need to go back and say, yeah, it's annoying. Like, it's, you know, a defense of aspects of Dark Souls 2 that I like, not an agree with general criticism most of the time fest. Don't think that would have made a particularly interesting video, and it would have been way longer. You know, the focus of my video was to talk about how sometimes quite minor changes in the design of a game can impact a wider experience of the game itself, and perhaps even other games in a series by influencing how you play them. And that to me just seemed more worthy of time and focus than stopping to mention that the hitboxes could be better. Overall, I think there's just a major contrast in our approaches to game analysis. MauLers seems to think you can objectively prove that a game is bad, whereas I'm not certain I agree with that approach. I like to focus on more experiential aspects of games and sort of the subjective way that people actually feel when they play them, which for me is kind of the point of games. Anyway, Bat, I hope that helped to answer MauLers' questions, and if that wasn't satisfying enough, pretend I said it over the course of 11 hours.
Because, as you can see from the series, it's useful to be concise and focused rather than waffle on and on and on and on. Hbomberguy focused on the important complaints that are subjective, and also the ones that he's passionate about. It is open discussion and dialogue, something I'm surprised you can't actually understand after 9 hours of picking it apart. Missing the forest for the trees, maybe?
But yeah, as a closing, the purpose of this series as a whole was to respond to and tear down the arguments provided in the video in defense of Dark Souls 2. This was a video made by Hbomberguy, and obviously I wanted to talk about his quality as a YouTuber as well, but to finalize that, I genuinely think he's pretty good. He's very interesting, and he's made some really great videos. In fact, he recently put out one on VHS, and that was really good. Like really good. So, you know, I just wanted to make that clear that he may have made some poop, but he's also made some gold. Yeah, we're following. Okay, good.
Sorry, man. If you make a 9.5 hour video picking it apart, you really don't sound like a fan, you sound like a lunatic. Now, I've been through MauLers' video and picked out all the objectivity and a little subjectivity he added for funsies. I've hopefully defended Dark Souls 2 well enough and tore apart about how MauLer is just a lunatic. So I have two fun little experiments to go through. Hello, it's me again. This was going to be 2 experiments, but instead there's only 1 because I removed 1 because it wasn't very interesting. Instead I'm going to replace the second one with this statement I found on Twitter, which is so bad and so interesting I thought I'd put it in. So this guy on Twitter, and he says, subjective opinions like, if you play Dark Souls with a shield, you're playing the game wrong. That's a subjective opinion. No, that's an objective statement made by Hbomberguy. This kind of line of thinking is emblematic of the kinds of people that MauLer is creating and allowing to exist, and it's also emblematic of what MauLer's line of thinking also is, because this is a guy defending MauLer, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, this is dog shit. Like, I don't know how to explain this. You're calling an opinion an objective statement, and I don't even have to go through this. So if you think like this, then welcome to MauLers' channel. You're gonna enjoy it a lot. But if you're looking for any good criticism of a game, you're in fucking hell. Get the fuck out of there. Anyway, bye. And on to the next bit. Camera Lucida is a book published in 1980 by Roland Barthes, a literary theorist and philosopher. That's enough about Wikipedia. Camera Lucida is a beautiful book about Roland's struggle to try and figure out how photography is an art, during the time when photography is not considered an art. An art? I can't do this second bit, I'm not doing the an art bit again. Fuck! Ah! From this, he considers twin types of subjectivity, the studium and the punctum. The studium being outside force, such as cultural, political, etc., to take in the photograph when you see it. Punctum being an inside force, a connection between photograph and the person. The punctumacy connection isn't there, but is still there. You see a grandma, and you think of your grandma, who died recently. Roland finds a picture of his mother, who had died. The photograph he sees gives him a rediscovery. He no longer saw a mother, but his mother. The minute details which made his mother. Does that make sense? If not, read the fucking book! Sounds like connect to anything at all? Well, it's a foundational book in making photography a respected art medium. Punctum's student of both valid forms of subjective analysis that form what makes art powerful in ways we have issues recognizing. MauLer, I know you're watching this. Let's use Dark Souls 1 examples. Gwyn. How do you objectively measure Gwyn's fight? I'll spoil this now for you. You can't. There's no fucking way. There's like a few minor things, but that's it. You're fucked. Sorry, everybody. We have the studium, the previous knowledge we have of Gwyn, including we know how he looked in the past. He's a hollow, the tons of ash throughout the area, the use of fire, and how we associate that with life in the game and in culture. His change from Lord of Sunlight to Lord of Cinder. The knowledge that you will become Gwyn and have to make the sacrifice, should you choose to. What we know about the other games that gives us more backstory about his sacrifice and Gwyn himself. Gwyn's self. And the music. God, the music. Those 3 notes. Such an overpowering yet simple piano piece compared to the almost comedic levels of grandiose orchestra and vocals in other tracks. Vendrick's first appearance also has this as well. Getting into more detail requires getting to the pumpkin. Pumpkin? The punctum. Fuck. Shit. Damn it. Getting into more detail requires getting into the punctum, however. Getting into more detail requires getting into the punctum, however. Yes, I did it! The studio means so much more, however. It's not simply studying a photograph with no emotions, rather it's commitment to reading into something, but without special acuity. The studium is what you seek out, but the punctum is what seeks you. I could go on. The punctum. I played Dark Souls 1 last. For me, it was a complete ending to the series, even after the Dark Souls 3 DLC. Gwyn was my true final boss. To go more personal, the idea of being a human that has lost all self, and made into this aimless husk, is terrifying to me. Vendrick also does this, as well as Lucatil, even better. Gwyn made me question whether the sacrifice was worth it. Sacrificing more than just your life, but your entire humanity, your entire being, for a cause. A cause that in Dark Souls 1 is dubious, and as we see in Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, is for nothing in the end. More personal? Sure. Loss is one of the worst experiences I think anyone can get, and I mean total loss, not a loss that you can get back. Gwyn's fight is all about Gwyn losing himself and everyone, but also represents to me the losses I have experienced. To destroy Gwyn is to overcome that feeling, and fully decide how you approach the situation, after everything you've endured. Dark Souls is a game about pain, death, and grief, among other things, and you overcome it. And, after everything you know, what do you do then? It's your choice. I mentioned the music and I'll do it here too. The way that it attempts to soar at certain points and then flow, how it will sometimes hammer the same notes repeatedly. Gwyn's music is absolutely gorgeous, and really helps to get across the beauty of the emotional pain of the fight. Roland described the punctum as literally shooting out like an arrow and piercing him. I could go on about stuff like this forever. I want to use a Dark Souls 1 example because MauLer loves Dark Souls 1. And the issue with all I've said here is that this cannot be made objective. Well, you can to an extremely base level, but it gets you nowhere. If you don't consider video games art, somehow, then I recommend reading this book. This book is one of the reasons why photography is now considered art. I hope this helps you understand, MauLer, why your series makes so sense. It is trying to assert something that shouldn't have been asserted at all. That objectivity and technicality wasn't worth talking about to attack Hbomberguy. Granted, use subjectivity, I'm sure you use it in the whole series, but then you've used it in a worryingly clinical way. Hbomberguy's videos are deliberately like this, because it's hard to assert anything objective into it. You seem to have an issue of fun being used in this video, and I think you should mull over why. Or maybe maul over why. Fun is a completely valid argument to use in a video game. It may be vague and subjective, but it is a valid feeling. It is enjoyment, Enjoyment is the intent a majority of the time, even in games that are sad or horrific. If you want to be objective, maybe it's better to use objectivity in a video that actually works in that context. But realistically, the fact that your series is 9.5 hours long cements that objectivity is a clunky and archaic argument. You see, MauLers uses Studium and basically no punctum. And Studium is very simplistic too, it is only that in relation to video games. Studium for each person is unique. A person in Japan, for instance, which reads right to left, may see the composition of something completely differently. MauLers attempts to feel how he felt in Dark Souls 1 through Dark Souls 2, and because Dark Souls 2 is almost deliberately separate and unique, the feelings he felt are lost. Here's the thing, no matter how much you delve into the Studium, the punctum is just as important. What MauLers has done has shown the subjectivity of his own Studium and missed punctum totally. This is half of an analysis, a yin with no yang. MauLers uses fundamental, inherent, and objective because a base statement is all that could be made, but provides no depth. Like dreams, there is no escape from subjectivity, the reality of our own internal self. That's so fucking obnoxious, why would I write that? But really, we take our mind into everything we do. To have an analysis with no subjectivity is literally mindless. Got him! I use Gwyn because I know it would be almost impossible for you to counter this. I know it was important to you, it was important to everyone who played it, the same can be said for Solaire or the Fair Lady. We are not immune to emotion. But you cannot comment on these without expansive use of Studium and punctum. So MauLers, back when he said, "Your feelings aren't relevant," maybe the most relevant part of analysis. Also, have you fucking heard of negativity bias? Fuck! Let's calm down. So hopefully I'll achieve what I set out in this video. MauLers is not worth your time as a critic, as he actively seems to detest any form of critical depth, as well as hating on other game critics. You could say that MauLers' channel is a fundamental, inherent, objective issue. His video series is so long and bad, it could possibly be a parody. That would explain a lot. Needless to say, I am a fan of MauLers. His commitment to a completely pointless and pedantic 9.5 hour series is admirable, in a way. It certainly is hilarious in many ways. I cannot tell how many times myself, Hbomberguy, or fans of Hbomberguy have made MauLers a punchline. There are times when 9 hours is simply used. But it's true! 9.5 hours! And for what? Nothing was achieved here. I have undone, in a much shorter time span, this video and possibly the series too. You said yourself that this series can be self-contained, and I take it at that. If this is what you have to offer, why should I break my back to go through the equivalent of the Lord of the Rings trilogy twice? I have joked about 24-hour charity streams of just your video series. It is hilarious the length you will go to for this. I have spite, but I don't have such an unhealthy amount, and for such a basic video too. I could go into more, but it's a defense of Dark Souls 2, not Hbomberguy. Even though he's completely right. I ask you to re-listen to this.
In the meantime, Dark Souls 2 is not perfect, but you can have a grand old time with it. The gameplay contains some of the tightest moments in the whole series, and some really fun variations on the formula. It tells a story that, instead of redoing the original or trying to build on it in a straightforward way, self-consciously explores what it means to exist in a specific position in gaming culture, and asks us what the things we desire from games say about us. I really enjoyed Dark Souls 2, and I think there's a lot of things that make it good, and if you didn't enjoy it, that's okay. Your different opinions and experiences are equally as valid, and I know I talk authoritatively sometimes, but I hope it's clear I'm just offering my opinion in a way I think is interesting or convincing, and it's okay to disagree with me. For now.
Dark Souls 2 is a solid game. At points, I dare say it is the best Dark Souls game, compared to the DS1 port and DS3. The love I have for this game is in many ways. It is a love that I rarely give to most games. The most recent one I can think of is Nier Automata. That's a different kind of love. It's almost like respect in that way. But Dark Souls 2 is a warm kind of love. Across the numerous playthroughs, there are many, many memories I have. This is something you can't live subjectively. I don't even know how to end this video. I can't put into words the way Dark Souls 2 grabs me. There are too many ways it does, some too minute that cause me to keep playing, but I can show you the ways it makes me feel. I'll let this play out. Oh no, hang on, I need a second.
were told that by killing you, I would be freed of this curse, then I would draw my sword without hesitation. I don't want to die. I want to exist. I would sacrifice anything at all for this. It shames me, but it is the truth.
Fuck me.
Sometimes I feel obsessed with this insignificant thing called self. Even so, I am compelled to preserve it. Am I wrong to feel so? Surely you do the same in my shoes. Maybe we're all cursed. From the moment we're born.
Fuck. Every single time that hurts to listen to. Mauler thinks this is a better game, and it has that fucking shit in it. I need a second. Fuck. Every single time that fucking hurts.
Oh god, listen to.
Jesus. Dark Souls 1 is maybe like this as well. Don't get me wrong. The Fair Maiden has some really depressing dialogue, but this is so universally human and depressing. It's so, it's so kind of human condition, like, self. It's the most human thing possible. And finally, we get something that really... Okay. That's such a good line. Maybe we'll look at this from the moment we're done. Just... fuck me. You guys ready for the end of Lucato's quest? Because I am. Barely. Oh, God. Here you go. You haven't got your mask on anymore, huh? Okay. How you doing?
Who are you? Oh. No. Forgive me. I know you. Yes, of course. How goes your journey? I know not what you seek in this faraway land, but I pray for your safety. Please take these.
Thank you.
Consider this thanks for keeping me sane. My name is Lucatio. I beg of you remember my name, for I may not myself. My name, for I may not.
Bye. Hey, you ready for the second step in the heart? Here we go, get ready. You remember her quest is to find her brother? Get ready. Lima. Oh shit, you knew. You fucking knew. Lucatio was meters away from finding her brother. Meters away. Thank you. Thank you, Lima. That's a bit weird. If a game can make me feel like that, how bad can it be? It is done. Evil is defeated. I want to thank everyone who supported me as I wrote this. The people who view my streams, the people who kept me going. This video would not exist now if it hadn't been for that. You know who you are and how you contributed. Don't forget to check out my stream and my Twitter. A box full of bats. Now I must rest. Good night. As I finish this audio here, it is 8:11 p.m. Just had a nice big burger, and it's the end of August actually. Okay. Oh, blimey neck. What? What? What the fuck was that? I need to look at that again. Holy sh... Let's just get this out of the way. Pick this up. Right, come on. There we go. Come on. On the floor. Oh, yeah, there we go. Hello, MauLers. We're on the floor now. Hey, guys. Is everyone enjoying this floor talk? Okay, good. Hello, MauLers. So as I realised as I edit this video and go through it multiple times, I realised that, like you, I'm not very positive during this video, during this series. This isn't a series; it's just one video. But I'm not very positive to you. That's not fair. So let's try and think positive. I know it's difficult because you are a terrible, terrible critic. But let's just say that your previous videos, your old videos, like the Amnesia one, I actually could sit through that and enjoy it quite a lot. I won't because I have better things to do with my time, like watch other better critics. But you know, if I had worse taste, I could sit through it and enjoy it because you're calm. You're not talking like this, and you seem to not be using objectivity very often. You actually seem to be more critical, but also more subjective at the same time. And your editing seems a bit like more charming as well. You seem a bit like more amateur, like mine is currently. So there's your thing. Right now, I am watching a downfall of a person from this amateur, humble beginning to this kind of cocky, snarky personality that I hate seeing in YouTubers, to this kind of weirdly popular character with many, many other YouTubers in his sphere, like Rags and the other guy. And those people are like 2 steps removed from other people that I would not associate with at all. That's not like saying you if you're right wing or you're a centrist that you should be like shunned from game critics or game criticism. It's just that like I wouldn't look to your opinion of The Last Jedi is bad and you should feel bad as my basis of good criticism in games or film. That kind of negativity is boring, oversaturated, and it's just depressing to listen to. I don't like that. So that's why I try, at least for the end bit, to make it a bit more positive, bit more personal as well. Because what else can I do on my time? If I went through the entirety of your 9-hour stuff, I would be so negative and washed out and bored and just bitter. And throughout the course of this video, I was supremely, supremely bitter and annoyed at basic mistakes that you made that I had to correct, because who else is going to correct them? Who else is going to get through this video and decide to do this? It's only me, and therefore I'm the only one with the power to say, even if you make a lot of views and money, you alone have the power to change yourself and your content. So, if you want to, and I know it makes you a lot of money in views, like I said, if you want to, you can continue to make fun of people for liking The Last Jedi and plot holes and video games that are genuinely good, and you can continue this path if you choose to, but I think recently games criticism is much more open. It's much more specific, such as very specific design choices or mechanics, and that's more interesting to listen to. So, you know, either you can be the fame and fortune guy, or you can be the, you know, interesting but not as popular person. It's your choice. But I can't make the decision for you. I can only tell you that your criticism is boring. And you might even listen to me. You might just say, lol, I don't agree with you, and then move on. Which, if that happens, then I fully expect it to happen. So, I think I've said enough. Anyway, let me just get off the floor. This is the, let me just put that down. Gently does it. This is the last thing in the video I had to edit. And, oh, my knee! And, yeah, that's all I have to say, really. This is it. This is the end of the video. I'm going to move on to other things, better things. Things that are more interesting, things that are deserving of my time and my effort, my positivity. MauLers, sadly, you are not worth my time, my effort, and my negativity or my positivity. You are not worth it to me. I'm sorry to say this. I know I've just finished the video. It's an hour and a half, 40 minutes long, but, you know, this is all I can muster. And I don't think anyone else deserves to muster a defense or an attack. I mean, Hbomb just fucking didn't. He just only spent 4 minutes just because I asked him very nicely. So, yeah, I'll be seeing you later. Hopefully later I'll be seeing you as a better critic rather than a terrible person who makes shitty crap.